Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream news summary from Moscow program. It is 14th of November. Now it's 3 p.m. Moscow time, and I had to move timing for a live stream because this morning, due to cold, somehow I did manage to catch cold. I was like a freaking zombie, so I did try to build a news program, but it was not working, and I guess this was best decision to move a live stream a bit, I feel more or less okay now, so probably I will manage it. My apologies for inconvenience due to that. Usually at 3 or 4 p.m. I'm starting my live streams on weekends, but not on weekdays. But anyways, dear friends, as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media is focused on, and hopefully you will find this update informative and useful. Also, probably you notice there is a comments now that you can see on a screen. Also, tell me in the comments, should I leave this feature or remove it? I will act based on your decision, your opinion, dear friends. And so, okay, that's been said, let's start the news segment, isn't it? In case you want to support my work, under this video in description box, you will find all the links to PayPal, Boosty, crypto, and so on, and Patreon. By the way, please subscribe to my Patreon. Follow me there. I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis for our Patreon and Boosty communities. Okay, that's been said. Let's start the news update itself. And first of all, RIA Novosti's report about work of air defense systems past night, and there was quite a large-scale attack orchestrated by NATO against Russia, and air defense systems intercepted 216 drones that was launched by Kiev regime to strike deep into Russian territory, formally by Kiev regime, in reality by NATO, of course. I can give you some details on this attack. So over the past night, air defense systems on duty intercepted and destroyed 216 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles. Defense Ministry reported most of their drones, 66, were shot down in the Krasnodar region, another 59 over the Black Sea, 45 in the Saratov region, and 19 in Crimea. Russian forces also destroyed 8 drones in Volgograd region, 7 in Rostov region, 4 in Belgorod, 3 in Tambov region, 2 in the Bryansk region, and 1 each in Voronezh, Nizhny Novgorod, and Orenburg regions. As you can see, dear friends, quite a vast geography of these strikes deep into Russian territory by NATO and NATO proxy Kiev regime. Most of the drones were intercepted by Russian forces, but unfortunately, not all. I can say, or at least, as Russian media usually reports, fragments of intercepted drones did manage to cause some significant damage. And right now on your screen, you can see aftermath of this damage caused allegedly by fragments of intercepted drones in Novorossiysk city. And we have information about these developments. State of emergency has been declared in Novorossiysk following drone attack. So Novorossiysk authorities declared the state of emergency following Ukrainian regime's drone attack on the city. Mayor Andrei Kravchenko announced on the Telegram. And let me give you some more details. Novorossiysk has been subjected to a massive drone attack by the Kiev regime, by NATO actually. A state of emergency has been declared. We will provide all necessary assistance to all those affected by their attack. All forces and the resources are currently focused on eliminating the consequences of the attack. An emergency response team has been deployed to coordinate the actions of all services. The statement reads, according to authorities, drone fragments have hit 4 apartment buildings and 2 private homes injuring one person who is hospitalized. The worst hit apartment building was on Gubernskaya Street. In the apartment building on Georgy Sokolov Street, one unoccupied apartment was damaged. Cars were damaged also in the courtyard. A temporary emergency response center was also deployed following the damage to their apartment buildings. And it's not just apartment buildings, by the way, not just residential areas, but some infrastructure was hit also. And TASS news agency, for example, is reporting that transportation of Kazakh oil is proceeding normally following the incident in Novorossiysk. The Kazakhstan is transporting oil normally along the Atarau-Samara and the Aktau-Makhachkala routes following a fire at the Sheshkaris oil terminal in the port of Novorossiysk. So oil terminal was damaged also. This was reported by the press service of Kazakh Ministry of Energy. The Ministry of Energy of Republic of Kazakhstan reports the following in a connection with the incident at the Sheshkaris oil terminal in the port of Novorossiysk. As of this hour, the reception and transportation of Kazakh oil through the Atarau Samara and Aktau Makhachkala systems are proceeding as usual without restrictions. The statement reads, earlier, the Krasnodar Krai task force reported that specialists have extinguished the fire that broke out at the oil depot at the Sheshkaris transshipment complex in Novorossiysk due to debris from the unmanned aerial vehicle failing there. There were no injuries. As noted by Kazakh Ministry of Energy, their agency is in contact with the Transneft to obtain up-to-date information. The situation is under constant monitoring by the ministry. So, well, energy infrastructure in Novorossiysk was also hit. Reports on some channels are suggesting that civilian vessel was targeted and damaged as a result of this attack, potentially tanker, although more information is of course needed to have a better understanding, but clearly it was a massive attack on Novorossiysk, on the southern regions of Russia in general. And when it comes to emergency situations, unfortunately there was another emergency in Karelia, a region of the Russian Federation, where Su-30 fighter jet crashed her, and unfortunately pilots were unable to eject her, and pilots died there. Tragic situation, of course, there, and quite a number of questions are rising how this incident even happened, given the fact that both pilots have had at least 4 to 500 combat sorties, so this was very experienced pilots. And when it comes to Karelia difference, it's a northern Russian region that borders Finland, right? This is Karelia, I mean this part here. It borders Finland, and maybe when I read this news, I was thinking maybe Russian pilots were training in an extremely low flight or something, because we all understand that Western elites, globalists, are preparing a next phase of escalation with Russia, and we cannot exclude or even potential direct attack on Russian Federation. And one of the directions from where globalists, neocons, NATO countries, basically NATO elites, might consider strike could be Finland. And there was quite a lot of military exercises conducted by NATO countries exactly in this new member of this terrorist organization that NATO is. And of course, Russia has to pay attention to these developments, and I'm quite sure Russian Air Force, Russian ground forces, everybody is preparing to deal with the enemy if necessary, by any means, right? And maybe Russian pilots were exercising this potential low flight, extremely low flight, while imitating potential strikes on incoming enemy forces or something like that. And maybe, it was some technical error in the plane or something, and they did not have the time to eject. If plane was on high altitude, most likely pilots would eject, right? Manage to eject, but because they did not, and this was very experienced crew, and Su-30s have two crew members, my assumption is that the flight was very low, and they had no time to react, basically. On high speeds, when you are flying low, it's not even a second that can crash, cause an incident, and unfortunate development there. But this information clearly gives us our indicators that Russia is preparing, by the way. Russia is preparing for whatever NATO gonna throw at us, including direct military combat against NATO forces. On all directions, NATO may try to attack Russia from Finland, from Baltic states, from Black Sea, for example. They might try attack Belarus and went to Russia through Belarus. Kaliningrad region is, of course, in headlines constantly because NATO high-ranking officials, including generals, openly are saying that they're gonna obliterate Kaliningrad region. And this is kind of statements that, of course, Moscow have to pay close attention to, right? So we are preparing, and if necessary, of course, we will do everything to obliterate NATO forces. By the way, that's it. We will kill them all, man, or most of them. That's how it's gonna be. Meanwhile, of course, Russian militaries are conducting retaliatory strikes on the Kiev-controlled territory, on military, logistical, energy infrastructure. And last night, according to information from Kiev regime's propaganda, main direction of Russian strikes was Kiev and surrounding areas. They even shared this map that you see on your screen right now of direction of Russian incoming missiles and drones. Reports are that potentially newly delivered air defense systems, newly delivered by NATO air defense systems, were destroyed as a result of this attack last night by Russian forces. Also, reports are that energy infrastructure and military-industrial complex, whatever is left there, was struck with a significant force. And in several districts of Kiev, according to reports, there is no central heating right now. And this is one of the reasons why I was saying on several occasions in my past updates that probably it will be better for residents of Kiev and other big cities on a territory that is controlled by NATO to evacuate to Europe, at least for a winter period of time, because Russia don't really have much option but to conduct retaliatory strikes, obliterate not just military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime, but military industrial complex and energy infrastructure that plays key role, obviously, in for military industrial complex and for military and logistics, right? And these kind of attacks are gonna continue and give it a couple of weeks, and probably whole Kiev and many other cities in the NATO-occupied parts of Ukraine will be left without electricity, without central heating, without services that are dependent on electricity, right? So therefore, best move residents of those cities can make right now is to evacuate to Europe and let the Europeans pay for them, right? European countries send hundreds of billions, European and Western countries in general send hundreds of billions of dollars as a money, and also hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weapons to prolong this proxy war against Russia as much as can, and to sacrifice as many people from Ukraine as they possibly can. And I think Europeans definitely have to pay for consequences of that, and they are obligated now to receive literally any number of refugees from NATO-occupied territory of Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of millions, whatever. Let them go in Europe, stay in Europe, right? And demand shelter, financial aid, social aid. They have to get everything, right, from Europeans, because Ukrainian citizens of Ukraine end up in this situation because of the Europe and Europeans. Let's be clear on that, right? And most likely we're gonna see wave after wave of refugees from NATO-occupied parts of Ukraine towards the Europe. Meanwhile, we also I can understand that citizens of European countries may not be happy about it, but I did not see those citizens marching on the streets of European capitals with demands to stop conducting this proxy war against Russia. So therefore, inaction of Europeans definitely created a play role in current developments for sure, and they have to pay now. It is what it is. They have to pay, as they have to pay for all the refugees from Middle East or from other regions of this world which was destroyed by the Europeans. And so Europeans have to pay for refugees now from those regions. They have to pay for refugees from Ukraine too. That's it. They might not like it, but well, you cannot go around this world and destroy lives of millions, tens of millions of people without consequences, right? RIA Novosti is also reporting that, well, there was a 7th wave of drone and missile strikes on Kiev, massive explosions, right? And as I already said, energy infrastructure was targeted, military-industrial complex. Some reports suggesting that newly delivered to NATO-occupied parts of Ukraine air defense systems were destroyed. And also we have this report from RIA Novosti that Russian armed forces struck a Ukrainian special forces base that had been that was housing basically European or Western mercenaries that had their long-term training, that undergone long-term training in Europe. This strike happened in Borispol, which is basically outskirts of Kiev. Russian troops attacked Ukrainian special forces based in Borispol, where volunteers from European countries were training. Nikolaev resistance coordinator Sergei Lebedev told the RIA Novosti, among the affected objects in the Borispol area, the strike hit a base for elite special forces volunteers who had undergone extensive training in Britain and Germany. Russian militaries also struck a training camp in Belaya Tserkov, air defense systems, command posts, drone bases, and facilities of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine in Kiev and the Kiev region. Missile and munition depots were targeted in the Dnipropetrovsk region, border military facilities, mobile radar station, artillery positions, and command points in the Sumy and Konotop districts. And when it comes to Sumy, by the way, some military channels reported that Russia used a Zircon missile, hypersonic missile, to strike some area in Sumy region. I wonder what exactly was the target, because Zircon missiles are not really used that often. It's quite a rare occasion, isn't it? And well, Western propaganda was very quick to say that this Zircon failed to reach target and struck some street somewhere, which is total BS, right? But yet again, that's what Western propaganda is pushing, by the way. If you listen to Western so-called media, Russian militaries are no longer exist. Russian missiles are not capable of doing anything. Russian drones are garbage. Everything, is finished. Russia has no armored vehicles left, nothing. And in reality, in reality, all we see is constant improvement of capabilities of Russian ground forces, air force, missile forces, and so on, right? That's how it is. Also, Russian troops past night, as a result of this relatively large-scale strike on Kiev-controlled NATO-occupied territory of Ukraine, targeted artillery positions and multi-launch rocket systems of enemy on the right bank of the Kherson region, as well as a warehouse complex in Kherson itself, storage facilities and reserves in the part of DPR controlled by Kiev, that is NATO, artillery areas, logistics, air defense facilities, and barracks of the Kiev regime's forces in the Nikolaev region. So, as you can see, dear friends, quite a large-scale retaliatory strike from Russia, and quite successful, I will argue. We might learn some more about these strikes in upcoming days, and of course, I will share additional information on that in next updates. Meanwhile, progress of the Russian armed forces continues on ground also, and we have this report from TASS News Agency, which is confirmed by Defense Ministry that Russian militaries liberated Sinelnikovo settlement and Danilovka settlement. So, Russian military personnel liberated the villages of Sinelnikovo in Kharkov region and Danilovka in Dnipropetrovsk region within past 24 hours, Russian Defense Ministry reported. And this is not all, dear friends. Also, TASS News Agency, based on Defense Ministry's update, reported today that Russian armed forces liberated Aristopol settlement in Dnipropetrovsk region. And let me show you map now and developments that is happening. Quick summary of the developments on the battlefield. So in Kherson direction, it's a positional fighting is going on, mainly in Zaporozhye sector. Well, Russian troops are getting closer and closer to main stronghold of the Kiev regime and NATO in the eastern part of this sector, Gulyai Pole, that is. And as I predicted, dear friends, Russian troops established control over the Danilovka, and Russian Defense Ministry confirmed this information. I already shared news about it. This is Danilovka settlement. It's located in the Dnipropetrovsk region, by the way, but this operation is clearly connected with the Gulyai Pole because, as you can see, main supply and support line of Gulyai Pole garrison of Kiev regime is going right on western outskirts of Danilovka, and Russian troops now have a physical control over this supply and support line. And also, as I was reporting in previous days, Russian militaries advanced towards Radosnaya settlement, and some military channels reporting that Radosnaya is also under Russian control. Some are reporting that Russian forces just began assault operations on Radosnaya. In any case, Russian troops reached Radosnaya settlement either. And yes, Gulyai Pole garrison of Kiev regime lost this very important supply and support line that goes north through the Dnipropetrovsk region towards Pokrovskaya settlement, which is a main logistical hub right now. Not to Pokrovsk, by the way. Pokrovsk used to be a main logistical hub, but because Pokrovsk is under full Russian control now and being liberated, now Pokrovskaya is a main logistical hub of Kiev regime and NATO mercenaries. And Gulyai Pole garrison no longer will be able to receive any supplies or reinforcements from Pokrovskaya direction. They still have western directions, right? But I guess once Russian troops will begin offensive operation on Gulyai Pole itself, probably we will see simultaneous Russian advances in Orekhov direction in surrounding areas to cut off all the remaining supply and support lines that can assist Gulyai Pole garrison. That's when it comes to this sector, right? Also, when it comes to the Dnipropetrovsk region, dear friends, it's not just a settlement Danilovka that Russian military is liberated, but also settlement of Aristopol, and this is the settlement that I'm talking about. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed this information, and I predicted. I was saying, like in previous updates, that Russian troops gonna liberate this village in short time. That's exactly what happened, and already some channels are reporting that Russian DRG is being spotted operating on a right bank, on the right bank of Volchya River. This is Volchya River, right? Yes, it is Volchya River. Right bank on the Volchya River in a settlement of Velika Mikhailovka. Quite a big settlement, by the way. And I think it would not take too long before Russian troops will establish control over the Novomikhailivka, also on the right bank of the Volchya River. And if you are familiar with this river, name of this river, that's because Volchya River, until it reaches Dnipropetrovsk, of course, it starts up north. And for example, in Volchansk city, by the way, is divided by exactly that river in northern Kharkov region by Volchya River. And because right now on your screen you see exactly that part of the line of contact, Volchansk. This is Senelnikova settlement, dear friends, that is being liberated by Russian forces, and Defense Ministry confirmed this information, and the clearing operation is in full swing in Volchansk itself, and I expect before end of next week clearing operation to be finalized, and Defense Ministry shortly after will, of course, make announcement about it. When it comes to Kharkov, of course, Kupiansk, by the way, is a Kharkov region too, and Russian troops, whether neutralizing encircled enemy troops in the Kupiansk area, no major developments at this point. It's a time-consuming process, of course, to conduct clearing operation and to neutralize these encircled forces of the enemy. In many cases, Russian troops 100% will offer opportunity to encircled troops of Kiev regime to lay down arms and surrender. If they will listen to this offer, if they will take this offer, good, they will save their lives. Otherwise, they're going to get neutralized there, obviously. But in any case, Russian militaries will take time. There is no rush to establish full control over the Kupiansk in any time frame. It's all up to Russian militaries, how long they will take, and so on. Main point is, of course, to make sure that there are minimal casualties on the Russian side. In any case, before end of November, as I said before end of November, by the way, and that is next 2 weeks, Kupiansk will be fully liberated by Russian forces. I have no doubts about it. Also, dear friends, in the Seversk direction, we have some changes. Seversk is a DPR. So Russian armed forces finalized clearing operation in Dronovka settlement, and this settlement is under full Russian control now, and it's located on the northeastern side of Seversk, as you can see. So this is Dronovka there, and this is Seversk itself. Russian troops are on the outskirts of Seversk, and I guess once Russian militaries will establish full control over their settlements in between Seversk and Liman, and process is clearly underway, we will see final push to liberate Seversk and Liman also. And I guess that's about it for a short summary of developments on the battlefield. Clearly, initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and there is not even theoretical chance that NATO and NATO proxy Kiev regime will be able to regain initiative on any direction whatsoever. They tried, isn't it? They tried in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd sector, for example. They sent quite a significant number of troops towards Russian breakthrough area on the northern side of Pokrovsk-Mirnograd, but they failed. They failed to achieve anything really. And reports are coming in that it's the Russian troops that are actually improving their positions. And for example, this settlement, Shakhovo, allegedly is under full Russian control now. There was a quite severe fight for Shakhovo, and some military channels are reporting that Russian troops established control over the Shakhovo also. Let's see, Russian Defense Ministry did not yet confirm this information, but maybe tomorrow, maybe day after, Russian Defense Ministry will give us information on that. Okay, let's continue with some other news, dear friends. And we have this reporter from RIA Novosti with the reaction of Kremlin on the decision of Kiev to end negotiations, Istanbul talks, basically, with Russia. And Kremlin warned, basically, Ukraine of consequences for refusing to negotiate. If Ukraine refuses dialogue with Russia, it will return to the negotiations from a much worse position, Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov stated. And I don't think there is anything really to add to the statement of Peskov, because this is factual. I mean, that's how it's going to be. Kiev regime decided to end their talks with Russia now, okay, as they did in 2022, you remember, and every time talks are beginning again, situation for Kiev regime is worse and worse and worse, and exactly the same gonna be this time around. 100%, there can be no doubts about it. And also, Peskov thanked the North Korean troops once again for assistance for the Russian troops to liberate Kursk salient area from invading forces, and also for conducting demining operations right now as we speak in the Kursk region. Let me give you some details on that. Russia will never forget the assistance of the military of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in dangerous and difficult demining work in the Kursk region. This was stated by Dmitry Peskov, press secretary of the Russian president, to journalists. And so, yes, basically, understandable statements. There is no longer like massive hysteria in the Western world about presence of North Korean troops here in Russia. You remember what was going on, isn't it, earlier? That, well, North Koreans are coming to Russia, North Koreans. I mean, and what? And what? But anyways, North Koreans are still here, by the way, North Korean troops, and they are assisting Russian militaries to demine Kursk salient area. And this demining process is extremely time-consuming, isn't it? I remember once a member of our community asked me if residents of liberated settlements will be able to return to their homes in LPR, DPR, Kherson region, Kharkov region, and in every places that are in Zaporozhye region, everywhere that are liberated by Russian forces. And the answer is, of course, yes, man. If people have not committed no crimes, of course, they will be absolutely able to return to their homes. No doubts about that. And if their homes were damaged, then Russian Federation will help them to build new ones, right? That's how it's going to be. And we Russian citizens are willing to, I mean, I would not be against if government will say, you know what, we have to add like 2% taxes on all citizens, right? To assist our brothers in liberated territories. And I have no issue with that. Let's do it, man, right? Of course, Russia will provide all the necessary support to our fellow countrymen in liberated territories. But when it comes to timing, when they will be able to return to their villages, to their towns and cities, timing is difficult to, it is difficult to say how long it will take to demine all these territories, because it's very, very time-consuming process, isn't it? Kursk salient is liberated by Russian forces for how long now? How many months since entire Kursk salient is liberated? But still, residents of many settlements are unable to return to their homes because of the issue of mines and the unexploded ordnance and stuff. So, of course, Russia is grateful for North Koreans for assisting in this dangerous work to demine the process, to participate in the mining process. But meanwhile, NATO, of course, and Western elites, of course, are dreaming about achieving strategical defeat of Russia. they are pressing Kiev regime, increasing pressure on the Kiev regime, so that more and more people will be forcefully mobilized there and thrown into trenches. And well, globalists, Western elites are promising everything else, right? Including money and weapons, and they are providing. They are not just promising, that they are providing billions of dollars and euros and as a cash, and also military packages worth billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions, right? And for example, we have this report now that Northern European and the Baltic countries have promised to allocate another $500 million under the Pearl program on November 13th. Finland, Denmark, Estonia, Iceland, Latvia and Lithuania, also Norway and Sweden announced that they would jointly finance the delivery of defense equipment to Ukraine worth 500 million US dollars. And I think it's worth noticing that these enemies of Russia, by the way, all these states that I just mentioned and all the others from the West, and they are enemies of Russia, by the way, right? Those states, not the people not being asked, but those states that are controlled by local elites definitely are enemies of Russia. And they are calling defensive weapon systems, even fighter jets nowadays. They are calling defensive weapon systems tactical missiles. You know, they destroy language even. You know, they are destroying everything they touch, including language, because when Western elites talking, any word they use is losing meaning, because in the past, defensive weapon systems had a clear definition what defensive weapons are. There was defensive weapon systems and offensive weapon systems, and missiles and attack drones and fighter jets were never described as a defensive. Man, what the hell, right? But I tell this to these Russian enemies. Anyways, you might say, well, $500 million, it's not that big of money. Well, this is just one among dozens and dozens of other military packages that NATO sent to Kiev regime to prolong this proxy war, right? And well, simultaneously, other programs are implemented. And for example, TASS News Agency is reporting that the European Commission will transfer approximately 6 billion euros on top of all already sent finances, already sent money to Ukraine through revenue from Russian assets. Incredible, man, incredible. They are stealing Russian assets, isn't it? Because every other week, Brussels is allocating another couple of billions, 2, 3, 5, in this particular case, 6 billion euros for a Kiev regime to prolong this proxy war against Russia. And they're always using this terminology that, well, you know, this is coming from Russian assets, right? As revenues from Russian assets, frozen assets. And at this point, I guess no one has any doubts that even if these investments were extremely successful, right, and they do make good profits, I mean, they cannot be that profitable, right? These investments, man. You cannot have profits from these investments on the level of like 10, 20, 30 billion a month. It's just not possible. So therefore, either European bureaucrats are just lying, they are allocating money of European taxpayers, and to keep people quiet, they are just using this sentence, you know, revenues from Russian assets. These are from Russian assets. And probably some believes in that. I don't know. Either, by the way, either they are stealing actual assets themselves, not just revenues, but assets. Either way, this is some dodgy stuff that is going on there, and eventually all these criminals, by the way, all these criminals from Brussels and other major capitals in Europe will have to pay heavy price for all the crimes that they committed, not just against Russia, but against their own citizens too. Politico is also reporting that, well, you know, this corruption scandal that is happening in Ukraine, right? And there are these different explanations, what is going on, different interpretations. I have my take on the situation. I think all this scandal is related to pressure Kiev regime to start mobilizing young generation from 18 to 25 to somehow deal with the tremendous manpower issue that this NATO proxy is experiencing, right? Other people have other explanations, but none of us are surprised to hear about corruption in Ukraine whatsoever, right? Everyone knows that Ukraine is most corrupt country, it's not even a country, but it's most corrupt territory ever existed on European part of Eurasian continent, right? There is no European continent. I mean, some people may don't understand this, but yeah, there is no European continent. It's called Eurasia. And there is a European part of it, right? So yes, this territory, this so-called Ukraine, is the most corrupt territory ever existed on European part of Eurasian continent. I don't think anyone is really surprised to hear that high-ranking officials, including ministers, were involved in corruption. And therefore, because this time around, the Western media was used by globalists and by neocons to, make this topic a little more relevant. I think this is clearly a game to pressure Zelensky to begin mobilizing young generations from 18 to 25, because they all already know perfectly well that Zelensky is the biggest corrupt criminal in Ukraine, biggest one. Most of the money goes to Zelensky. And all those ministers and their other officials, they are just, maybe they will get like 1%, 0.5% of overall stolen volume, of stolen money, but most of it goes to Zelensky and returns to Europe and the US, but right? We should not forget that all these officials in US and Europe, all of them are corrupt, right? And God knows how many billions they received already back from Ukraine, from all this 500 plus billion that formerly was allocated for the regime, right? And so now Politico is reporting that NABU, a US-controlled, mainly US-controlled, but definitely Western-controlled anti-corruption bureau in Ukraine, plans to target defense ministry. And by the way, if there was a tremendous corruption, there was indeed tremendous corruption in Ministry of Energy. Defense Ministry, you can imagine, is going to be like 10 times worse, isn't it? 100 times worse. And so, and already so many stories are known, by the way. I mean, formerly, Defense Ministry of Ukraine was buying eggs, for example, for troops under the price that probably you can buy, I don't know, man, car. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yes, price difference was just unbelievable, right? If eggs were costing in reality, like, I don't know, $2 or like tenner, Ukraine's defense ministry was paying like $15 or something. It's crazy corruption, by the way. They are stealing everything, right? And this is also a message to Zelensky to obey orders that he's being given. Otherwise, NABU gonna go into defense ministry. Zelensky not gonna be able to do anything against NABU because it's, yet again, this is a Western-controlled group there, and yes, they're gonna bury Zelensky eventually. And if Zelensky thinks that today or tomorrow he will run away somewhere in Israel, and I said many times, isn't it? If Zelensky will manage to run away, he will run for Israel. All the fascists and Nazis are running for Israel, right? And Zelensky not going to be exception. If he will manage to run away from Ukraine, that's the question. And so, yes, therefore expect, by the way, expect in upcoming days and weeks, most likely upcoming weeks, discussion in Ukraine to accelerate about mobilizing younger generation people from 18 to 25. And they're going to implement all the necessary legislation for that. And that's it. Everyone will forget for time being about corruption in Ukraine. And Zelensky will stay in his office. Zelensky will stay in presidential office until maybe even, I don't know, 2027. Who knows? If he refuses, then they're going to take him out. They're going to take him out, or maybe even, spring, before spring 2026, or during the spring. Let's see. But when it comes to topic of manpower, by the way, this is definitely something that globalists, enemies of Russia, globalists, neocons, and all the regimes that they control in the West are concerned with. And well, nowadays, even Washington allegedly is considering to begin deporting Ukrainians. The Washington Post come up with with information that Trump's administration preparing to deport Ukrainians despite fears of conscription. I mean, they are going to deport them exactly because of the conscriptions, right? They want to somehow prolong this war. They want to give the regime more people to be sacrificed, right? U.S. prepares to deport Ukrainians. The U.S. can deport as many as they want. Will find good use for them. Zelensky's advisor responded to this. Exactly. Zelensky will welcome all the deportees, right? All of them, because straight from the airport, they're going to be thrown into freaking trenches. Maybe they will be taken for a couple of days in concentration camps, right? They will be issued a military uniform of some sort. And then after a couple of days in the concentration camp, they're going to end up on the line of contact. So U.S. seems like, if WAPO is not lying, by the way, seems like U.S. is leading this charge, or planning at least to lead the charge in this inevitable wave of deportations of the Ukrainians or people from Ukraine, refugees from Ukraine in the Western world, right? And well, Washington is not alone. Berlin plans to do the same. German Chancellor, for example, tells Zelensky Ukrainians should go home and join the military. Merz also plans to take away citizenship benefits from Ukrainian refugees. This is reported by Die Walter. Yet again, demonstration that globalists are very much concerned about lack of manpower, right? And you remember, dear friends, veterans of our community for sure remember that I was saying for years now that they will come when Western government is going to begin, under whatever pretext, but deporting people from Ukraine, refugees from Ukraine, so that they will be forcefully mobilized and sacrificed for geopolitical agenda of the West. And we are clearly getting closer and closer to that exact point in time when there are going to be massive waves of deportations of citizens of Ukraine or Ukrainian refugees from all over the Western world. RT also reports on this matter, or RT reports about article, build on this matter. That will be more correct way to say it. So German government has agreed to terminate the preferential treatment of Ukrainians, bringing their benefits down to the level of refugees from the other nations. Bild newspaper has reported Germany has become one of the top destinations for Ukrainians since the escalation of the conflict between Moscow and Kiev in February 2022. Currently, an estimated 1.1 million reside in the country. Ukrainian refugees have been given preferential treatment by Berlin, but now the program is slated to end, the German government agreed on the matter on Tuesday, Bild has reported, citing senior officials. Under the regime included in the immediate aftermath of the escalation of conflict in 2022, Ukrainian nationals were eligible for in Germany for 563 euro monthly allowance, with additional support provided for rent and other amenities. Asylum seekers from elsewhere receive only around 180 euro per month, along with their other benefits. All the Ukrainians who came to Germany after April 1st, 2025 will be treated as a regular asylum seekers, while earlier arrivals will retain their enhanced benefits, according to Bild. The government originally considered applying the measure retroactively to all the Ukrainian refugees in the country, but the plan has been reportedly deemed too complicated to implement. Unbelievable, man. Anyways, clearly a process has begun, right? Process has begun, and I don't know how long it will take, months, 2, 3, but they are in a hurry. Globalists are in a hurry, right? Because due to lack of manpower, Kiev regime's defense lines or NATO defense lines are on occupied territories. They are collapsing literally on weekly basis now on different parts of their line of contact. And I'm not sure they really have 2, 3, 4, 5 months to consider how they're going to deport hundreds of thousands of men from Ukraine. They're going to come up with some decisions much earlier than that, I think. But in any ways, I would recommend residents of Ukraine right now that are still living there, especially in cities, to go to Europe, right? And millions of them should go, right, and demand from Europeans everything to live. No any Western Europeans live, right? They should demand homes and their money and everything, right? Let the Europeans pay for all the crimes that they committed, right? And they should, man. Hopefully they will. Go there. But probably globalists are thinking about it too, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if in upcoming weeks European countries will begin discussion of shutting down the border with Ukraine. They might shut down border with Ukraine to make sure that there are going to be no more waves of refugees from there. But we will see. Meanwhile, senior Russian official trolled basically EU as a human rights exclusion zone and call it as a human rights exclusion zone, which is actually a correct description of modern Europe. The European Union has become a human rights exclusion zone rather than a covered destination for the visitors. A top Russian security official has said Brussels last week banned EU states from issuing multi-entry visas to Russian nationals, reacting to the bloc's newest visa restrictions. Sergei Shoigu, secretary of the Russian Security Council and the former defense minister, mocked comments by EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, who claimed that traveling to EU is a privilege, not a given. I mean, really? Who gives a fuck about you? Really? Europe? Huh? These Europeans, man, they think they are pinnacle of the civilization, man. In reality, it's a freaking dirty place, man. As it was dirty some 200 years ago, man. London was drowning into freaking human feces, man. Just like 150 years ago. And they think they are, like pinnacle of civilizations, these dirties, this filth. Yeah, okay. Unbelievable, man. Perhaps a special permit should indeed be required to enter such a human rights exclusion zone, Shoigu jokingly remarked in an interview with the RIA Novosti published on Tuesday. And yes, man, we should completely, I mean, I'm not supportive of complete ban of travel to Europe. I mean, just because these garbage elements in European elites are creating so many troubles, we should not create barriers for ordinary people to communicate. But I mean, Europe is it's finished, man. It's finished. All they generate really is hate all over the world. The Western world, by the way, in general, collective West generates unbelievable levels of hate all over the world, and mainly due to their aggressive policies, obviously, hostile policies, and also due to their attitude. Due to their attitude, by the way. When they're not even trying to hide that they are freaking Nazis and the racists, right? They think they are like better humans than rest. Maybe they don't even think that rest of humanity is humans at all. Racism is a fundamental issue in Europe, by the way. Racism and the Nazism, right? They clearly is suffering from this big time. They actually think, very many people in Europe, they actually think they are better than others just because they are Europeans, man. And our members of our community from Europe can share their opinion. Am I wrong on that? Is not Europeans, very many Europeans, majority most likely, vast majority, is not they think that they are better than anyone else just because they are Europeans? They do. And with this attitude of with this racist or Nazi attitude, they definitely generate tremendous volume of hatred all over the world, man, and disrespect. And disrespect because Europe, I'm telling you, man, 150 years ago, London was drowning in human feces. When we are talking about civilized worlds, I mean, Europe is nowhere near to be civilized world, man. They don't have a history of civilization. They never built civilization, right? Never. There is no such a thing as a European civilization. What is this? You tell me, man. What is a European civilization? To drown in the human feces? French aristocracy was not washing themselves for months and months on end, and that's why they become quite good. French, I mean, in toilet water. They were stinky freaking creatures, man. And to somehow hide this thing, they become quite good on creating all these perfumes of all sorts, right? That's what Europe is, man. Actually, that's how world sees Europe. When you go through history, I mean, there was unbelievable civilizations in Middle East, obviously, right? Unbelievable civilizations in China, India, I mean, global South, in Americas, by the way, right? Long before Europeans even managed to come up with the idea to have some dress on them, right? They were still running in the freaking forest, man, as a wild elements. And very same time, there was tremendous civilizations out there of humans. And the modern Europeans, elites at least, and significant part of Europeans in general think that they are civilized, and the rest of the people are just, subhumans, right? I said, man, they are generating such a hate that, when Europe will end up in a very dark place, and Europe gonna end up in a very dark place, the rest of the humanity gonna stay away and say, you know what, they deserve it. And the Europeans may not get no help, man, from rest of the humanity because of this extreme hostility towards everybody and this attitude that they are somehow better than the rest of us just because they are European, or they come up with this nonsensical stuff. They are white. They are white. Rest of us, we are not humans, and they are white people. That's their attitude, man. These freaking psychopaths, man. Mental ill fucking animals, man. TASS news agency is reporting, meanwhile, that the world community's reaction to U.S. Statements on nuclear tests disappointing, according to Russian envoy. And it is disappointing because it's not even disappointing. It's something, in some other word has to be used, because there was no reaction whatsoever from so-called world community or international community, right? It's outrageous. The international community's reaction to the U.S. Statements about its intention to resume nuclear testing is disappointing, and the situation is very alarming. Russian envoy to international organizations in Vienna, Mikhail Ulyanov, said, "To be honest, the international community's reaction personally disappointed me and my colleagues. In general, this situation is very alarming because I think the reaction in the 20th century would have been much sharper. After all, the ban on nuclear testing is sacred, especially for countries in the global south and the developing countries, as well as Western European nations. However, no serious concern has been expressed here, but let's see how events unfold," he said during Russia 24 TV broadcast during the interview there. And yes, I mean, Russian envoy is definitely on point there. There was no reaction whatsoever from the West. US president said that they're going to start nuclear weapons testing, and nothing, literally nothing. Not even environmentalists say word. No one said nothing. Everyone is quiet. How this can be, I don't know. But clearly, world has lost fear of nuclear weapons, man. World, especially Western world, I think, especially Western elites have lost the fear of the nuclear weapons, and maybe they have to be reminded what nuclear weapons are. I don't know, but absence of fear of nuclear weapons is extremely dangerous stuff. It's extremely dangerous stuff, and based on behavior of these filthy creatures that are in charge of Western world, clearly we can say that they have no fear of nuclear weapons because they are messing around nuclear superpower that has most of the nuclear weapons, more nuclear weapons than any other country. So nuclear deterrent is being in question for quite some time now, isn't it? And this is extremely dangerous stuff. Something clearly has to be done to remind current elites, ruling class of the West, why their predecessors in 20th century were very keen to avoid confrontation with between nuclear powers by any means necessary. They knew how dangerous nukes are back then. But modern elites in the West seems like they don't really care. Either they are extremely stupid or they're just actually believing that no matter what level of provocations they can come up with against Russia, Moscow will never ever use nukes. And they are mistaken, man. They are mistaken big time. Anyways, Western elites, man, these freaking animals. I don't know. I don't know what should we do, but we should neutralize them, man. We should declare Western elites terrorist organization and exterminate them all. That's it, man. We, I mean humanity. They are terrorists, mass murderers, fascists, and we have to treat them as such, right? RT is reporting that U.S. launches new military operation. Okay, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has announced a military operation against narco-terrorists aimed on ongoing tension with Venezuela and strikes on illegal cartel alleged cartel vessels. Washington's recent hostility towards Caracas under US President Donald Trump's administration has been characterized by the significant increase in naval activity in the Caribbean, coupled with the renewed focus on drug trafficking allegations and regime change efforts. Today, I am announcing Operation Southern Spear, Hexet wrote on X. On Thursday, yesterday, led by Joint Task Force Southern Spear and Southcom, this mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people. The Western Hemisphere is America's neighborhood, and we will protect it, he wrote. Okay, Hexet, okay, Americans, go ahead. I think U.S. needs to be taught a lesson, right? U.S. citizens also are quite specific, isn't it? The vast majority of them actually believe that they are exceptional, isn't it? They've been told that from their kindergarten, right? And they are racists by nature, literally racist. They've been raised as a racist, right? They are exceptional. They are, these white people. There is no such a freaking race as a white race, but us tell this to these Westerners, right? And so yes, they have to be teach the lesson. There was no actual war for quite some time now on U.S. soil after Civil War, basically. And I think with this extremely hostile behavior of Washington towards countries in Latin America, due to this racist attitude, criminal, inhuman attitude, they will trigger some significant response. And yes, man. Some time ago, I was thinking that if Russian leadership succeed in negotiations with U.S. and if America First forces will ally with Russia, in that case, U.S. would have a chance to maintain its relevance on the geopolitical map. But they refuse, right? They refuse. They play dirty games with Russian leadership. They refuse to de-escalate. Therefore, U.S. is doomed now, as Europe is. Give it 20, 30 years, sir. Neither Europe, either US, they're going to be in a freaking dark place, man. A very dark place. And big time isolated from the rest of the world. And they're going to eat each other, literally. Europeans and Americans, they're going to start cannibalizing on each other, man. That's how dark their time's going to be for them. Give it to 20, 30 years. It might sound like a freaking, apocalyptic movie scenario, but that's the direction that they are heading, man. And okay, that's their choice, isn't it? It's their choice. So, they start a new military operation. Also, reports are that Trump weighs updated military options for Venezuela, according to CBS. Possible land strikes are included. No final decision yet made. USS Gerald Ford already near the Venezuela, along with the flotilla of destroyers and warplanes, according to CBS. And yes, they're gonna go ahead. They're gonna go ahead and start the wars against Venezuela, against Cuba. By the way, I said earlier that this buildup of military forces in the Caribbean is not just against Venezuela, and maybe not so much against Venezuela as against Cuba. You might not believe me right now, but just mark my words, man. It might take no longer than a couple of weeks from now, and Washington will begin attacking Cuba, right? And as they blame Maduro to be like top drug trafficker or something, they're gonna begin blaming Cuban government to be like big bosses on drug trafficking. Not the CIA, by the way, not the Pentagon, but leadership of Cuba and Venezuela. Yeah, they're gonna go ahead there with their military actions, but yet again they're gonna lose, man. They're gonna lose. They're not gonna succeed. There is not even a like 1% chance that US will succeed either with Venezuela or with Cuba or with anybody, right? That's it. And best one can tell to US citizens, good US citizens, by the way, good people, is to freaking evacuate, man. Just go in some other place. I'm not saying that good people from Western world should necessarily come to Russia, although many actually are coming to Russia. There are some other countries. I think once Europe and US will be dealt with, Australia and New Zealand probably will come a little more adequate. Australia and New Zealand will become a little more adequate. They will gain a little more freedoms, right? And yes, Americans and people from West can migrate there, by the way. It's English-speaking countries, right? So integration not gonna be that difficult as it is in Russia, for example, because Russian language, by the way, culturally they might not be that different, but mentality is very different. We don't think we are freaking exceptional or we are better than anybody else just because we want to or we say so. We don't have that kind of mental ill attitude or mental illness. That's a mental illness, by the way, where you think where you are better than others just because it's not healthy attitude, right? So yeah, we are different. We are different. We are just normal people, with our flaws and with our some good sides. But yet again, integration in Russia is difficult because language it seems like to be difficult to learn by many, for many. But go to Australia, man. Go to New Zealand. Just run away from Europe and US and Canada, man. Just run away. Take your families, move to Australia, move to New Zealand, because Europe and North America is doomed, man. Doomed. 20, 30 years is like a second, isn't it? Time is fast, man. Just it seems like it was just yesterday, like, when we were young. And we are already, old, and in some cases half life has passed, in some cases most of the life has passed, right? So it's just a second, and these 20, 30 years will pass, and I'm telling you, man, Europeans and Americans gonna begin cannibalizing on each other. That's how dark time's gonna be for them. They are doomed, man. Only chance, Europeans were doomed there a long time now. Americans still had a chance, by the way. If America First Forces would ally with Russia, US actually had a chance, and in that case, Canada would have had a chance too. But you see what is going on, isn't it? There is no force in US with whom one can actually have a normal talk, man. And the Russian president tried, isn't it? Russian leadership tried to establish some working relationships with Trump's administration, but it's just not working, man. It's just impossible. Anyways, let's continue. And it's a Friday, isn't it? I'm a little more casual today than I'm usually, but it's Friday, for God's sake. So yes, interesting news here that our second import substituted MS-21 airplane successfully flew from Russia's Irkutsk to Zhukovsky near Moscow. United Aircraft Corporation reported, according to the crew commander, the aircraft performed flawlessly. All systems operated steadily and without a single failure. So yes, you can see on your screen now this one of the Russian new civilian planes, passenger planes in this particular case, MS-21. And this is our second plane that is completely that is built completely importer substituted. Everything is Russian there in these planes, from engines to programming, everything, right? Which is great, by the way, which is great. And I'm quite sure MS-21 gonna have a success, man, big success on the world market. In China, in India, by the way, Russia and India have begun talks about building super jets in India. And maybe once lines are established, where super jets, another Russian civilian craft, when super jets will be produced, soon after, probably MS-21 can be also built there in India. Who knows, man? And just a Russian market, Indian market, Chinese market, uh, global South in general, and BRICS member states will be enough, for God's sake, to sell hundreds, potentially thousands of planes, man. Right? So I expect very big success for Russian aerospace industry, man, with these planes and other planes that are coming soon. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that five EU countries brought 938 million euro worth of oil and gas from Russia in 1 month. So, five largest importers of fossil fuels from Russia in the European Union is Hungary, Slovakia, France, Belgium, and Romania. And they paid combined 938 million euros in October alone, for oil, pipeline, and liquefied natural gas from Russia, according to analysts at the CREA, Center for Research and Energy and Clean. The experts' calculations are based in particular on data from analytical company Kepler, the vessel's tracking portal, marine traffic, the European network of gas transportation system operators, and customs data. Okay, by the way, $1 billion, 938 million euros are about $1 billion, right? Maybe more, little more than billion. And yes, just these five countries pay about $1 billion in October alone. Probably this month they pay even more, because weather getting colder and colder, and their demand on energy is increasing and increasing. But you know what? I would prefer Russia to sell no oil and gas to European countries, man, whatsoever. I would prefer to see complete cut of any economical ties with Europe, actually, because it's a dependence. More we do business with them, more dependent we are on European economies, right? One way or another, like it or not, but we are getting dependent on the consumers in Europe, and we already learned hard way, isn't it, that we cannot trust them. We cannot trust them. They can pull out any trick anytime, right? They can confiscate our assets. They might steal anything they want anytime they want, right? They might not pay for nothing. I mean, we have learned the lessons hard way, and I hope in next 3 to 5 years, max 10 years, Russian economy will completely diverse economy towards rest of the world, and let's forget about existence of Europe, man. We don't need Europe, never needed actually, and so let's stay apart, man. Let's wish them in Europe good luck, and let's just stay away, man. And yet again, I'm talking about European elites, by the way, not the people, but people don't decide nothing in Europe, isn't it? People can only observe without acting all these crimes that their elites, their governments are committing against Russia, against other countries. And yes, it is unfortunate that Europeans only observe without doing much. But yeah, what you gonna do about it? Majority, I'm talking about. There is a informal minority that yes, try something, but they are so tiny that they cannot influence nothing really. TASS news agency is also reporting that Russian oil exports down in general. Russian oil exports down to 7.35 million barrels in October, and revenues down to 13.13 billion dollars. So Russia's exports for oil and petroleum products fell by 2% in October 2025, month on month to 7.35 million barrels per day. International Energy Agency reported, meanwhile, revenues from export supplies lost 2.81% to 13.13 billion. Oil deliveries decreased by 110,000 barrels per day, while supplies of petroleum products fell by 40,000 barrels per day. Revenues from oil exports amounted to 8.81 billion in October, which is 420 million lower than in the previous month, while revenues from exports of petroleum products totaled 4.32 billion, up by 40 million dollars. So yes, that's some numbers, by the way, about Russian oil exports. This topic is become relevant nowadays, especially after U.S. imposed sanctions on Russian Lukoil and Rosneft, isn't it? And yes, overall, I think most of the experts are agree in the field that these sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil gonna hurt Russia, these companies, and Russia itself, Russian energy sector. But also, majority of experts that actually know Russian economy are agreed that Russia can survive this without even really noticing much, right? Yes, it's gonna be harmful, but in a way that you can deal relatively easily. So it is what it is, man. Right? So some stats there, and that's about it. That's about it for now. Hopefully you did like the. Hopefully you did find the update informative and useful. And if so, click that like button, please. If was there any super chat? Boosty, did you send me screenshot? There was a commentary through Boosty. So let me highlight this commentary if I may. So this is the commentary on Boosty from Mr. X. Thank you very much, Mr. X, for 1,500 ruble donation, which is $20 donation. Thank you very much. And comment from Mr. X is thank you for your hard work. It is appreciated. I love your brutal honesty. Is not much, but I hope it can lift your spirit up this morning. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your support and attention. And yes, sometimes I might be a little too direct in the comments. It might look like too brutal, really. And I hate this. I'm gonna be real here. I hate this, man. In real life, I'm not a. I'm quite quiet guy. Really, I'm not really looking for trouble. Never aggressive. If not necessary, I'm not gonna be angry on anything or anyone. But I myself noticing that during these reports on news, some news is getting under my skin. After all, I'm doing this stuff for 3-4 years now, and And yes, maybe I'm a bit tired psychologically to deal with this constant hostile steps from hostile news that usually are connected with the Western. And yes, sometimes I might say stuff in a way that not nice, but true. You know, at least I'm honest always, right? With exception of when I say something when I'm very angry. When I'm very angry, I might go with some crazy stuff. I might say some crazy stuff that I don't really mean. But and this is case with you also, isn't it, dear friends? When you are very angry, you say some stuff that you don't mean actually, but you say so because that's how humans are. That's how humans are, man. When you are angry, you just go on rampage. You say some stuff you don't mean, but otherwise, yes, I'm. You know, you can tell that I'm a bit. How should I say? A bit tired of this, observing this hostility from the West, man. And yeah, I don't think we deserve this. And I don't think Western elites should be able to be this hostile against Russian people with impunity, man. Right? That's why I think we have to retaliate and retaliate harder and in such a scale that will shock them all, right, in the West. And if it will trigger full-scale war, then yeah, okay, be it, man. I go, we all go, we will fight, we will win, right? Or we will all die, man. Who knows? But yet again, you see, I'm getting angry now, and I'm going, talking some shit now. Full scale war, and no one wants no full scale war, man. What am I talking about? But yes, thank you very much, Mr. X, for your support. And there was a boosty. There was a boosty right now. Let me highlight. There was a comment on a boosty from Alexander G, dear friends, right now, and let me highlight, if I may. Thank you very much, Alexander G, for your support and attention, and 779 ruble donation, $10 donation. And comment from Alexander is, we appreciate your work, brother. We understand things get provocative. It's okay. Thank you, Alexander, for understanding. At this point, dear friends, probably veterans of our community manage to know me well enough to understand when I'm just depressed, when I'm having a bad day, and what I'm talking about in general, right? So therefore, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alexander, for your support. And there was the friends donation also. So thank you very much, Alexander, and I hope majority of our community understands that if me or any other commentator from Russia, there is very few channels left really on YouTube, especially, but there are some, and when one of us go off rail and become emotional or something, one should keep in mind that, well, we are observing this hostility from the West, Western elites for years and years and years, for decades actually, right? Last several years, it's a proxy war already. And you should understand that when this is happening, when Western elites are this hostile with impunity, that plays on our nerves big time, man, right? It will play on your nerves too if you are Russian. You want your enemies to be punished, right? That's how it is. And the Western elites, they clearly are our enemies, and mortal enemies, right? They are enemies of humanity, if you ask me. Maybe Western societies do not understand how damaging for their lives, for their future, their own governments and their own elites are. But but it's true, man. Those Western elites are enemies of their own countrymen too, and for a whole of humanity. And oh, there was yes, yes. Spiridon. Spiridon. It's Spiridion. Thank you very much, Spiridion. In Georgia, there is a name, by the way. At least in old times, there was a name, Spiridon. Anya is telling me don't go into history. Okay. She is very critical of me quite often when I just talk and talk and talk. She's always telling me just shortly, just make it short. So thank you very much, Sporidon, for a $22 donation. I appreciate your support. Thank you. And there was no comment, right, to highlight. So thank you very much for your support. And from John, by the way, from Banzo Binzer, our moderator, also a comment. Let me highlight, if I may. I might have temperature right now, 38 or something. Thank you very much, John, for your super chat, dollar donation, and the commentary. I am not here. Have a nice weekend, Levan and friends. Have a nice weekend, John. Thank you very much for your support. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a wonderful, great weekend. Thank you, John. And yes, can I end? Fine. So this is it, dear friends, for now. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention. Have a wonderful day, great weekend, and take care. Bye for now.